Welcome to the England's matchday -1 press conference ahead of their third place match against Belgium tomorrow. We have with us English coach Gareth Southgate and player Fabian Delph. First of all, the channels for interpretation. We have channel 1 for English, 2 for Russian, 3 for French, and 4 for Dutch. Please raise your hands to ask the questions. Mention your name, organization, and the language you wish to ask the question. Please ask the questions in the languages I mentioned now. And please ask only one question at a time so that others also get an opportunity. We'll start with the question, and the gentleman there with the specs. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Steven de Voor, the Standard in Belgium. This is a question for Mr. Southgate. I was wondering, we have seen some unsportsmanlike behavior already during the tournament with the diving of Neymar and the time wasting of certain players. But now, after the second goal of Croatia, there was the attempt by Rashford and Lingard to make a second goal for England while the Croatian players were still celebrating. Now, I'm just wondering, is that an idea that came in any way from yourself or from the staff, or was it their own idea? And in that case, did you tell them anything afterwards about how inappropriate that was, or?
Well, I think what happened, there was a lot of social media discussion around people celebrating and only having one player on the pitch. Nobody seemed to know the rules. A couple of teams seemed to try it. I just think the players were not sure what the rules were and whether they were able to kick off or not. So it wasn't something we'd discussed. And obviously, what we had worked out as a group of staff, because we'd checked for when we celebrate, was that rule doesn't exist. So I don't know why the boys did it. I haven't discussed it with them. But we know the rule is in place that you can't kick off until the referee decides. So it was an irrelevance for me.
Yeah.
Hello. Miguel Ángel Moreno from the Spanish news agency EFE. A question in English for Gareth Southgate. I would like to know, how do you face this game in terms of mentality first, and then in terms of the lineups, if you are going to make so more changes?
Yeah, in terms of mentality, it's obviously been a really difficult couple of days for us. We were 20 minutes from a World Cup final, and then in extra time, 10 minutes from a shootout to get to a World Cup final. So the reason for us being here was to achieve that big goal. And for all of the players and all of the staff, we got back to St. Petersburg at 6:30 in the morning after the game. So emotionally, a very difficult few days. But I've got to say, the players are incredible. They're an absolute pleasure to work with, and their energy this morning, their desire to finish the tournament well, we feel we owe it as much to ourselves as our public and our nation. I think we've brought a lot of pride, but we want to finish the tournament well. We've set a standard in how we work, we've set a standard in the way that we play, and we want to aspire to that level every time we go out and every time we train. And we want to keep those standards right to the end. And the players did that this morning in training. What we have to decide with the team is who can go again. Physically is going to be important. Everybody wants to play. Everybody trained this morning. Sometimes it's not always a good decision for people to play if their energy isn't quite there, and we've got to think of who can give us the best performance. So it won't be exactly the same starting 11, but we want ideally to make as few changes as possible. With 1 or 2 injuries, 1 or 2 with a little bit of illness, so we just have to see. But We have high motivation to perform. We have the chance to win a medal at a World Cup, which only one other English team has ever done. There's a lot of motivation for us, and of course Belgium have beaten us once already, so we'd like to address that as well.
Okay, before we take the next question, I would like to request the photographers to please make their way out. Thank you so much. And the next question we give here at the corner. If you can come from here and get the microphone here. Just wait, sir, for a second before they exit. Thank you, sir.
Paul Joyce, The Times. Gareth, you mentioned then about it being 20 minutes from a World Cup final. In the days since Tuesday, is there any part of you worried that this might be as good as it gets? And a question to Fabian, could you speak a little bit about Phil Foden and how you see what his strengths are and maybe his progress over the next year?
Yeah, Phil Foden's a young player. He's still learning his craft. He's at the right place to do that. He's got a lot of ability, and I can see him in the future developing into a really top talented player. In terms of his development into the England setup, well, that's down to him. He's got to keep progressing, keep working hard, and if he breaks into the City team and manages to show what he can do, then I'm sure the manager will select him.
From the question, well, the reality is none of us know if that's as good as it gets. What our aim is that we build with a system now through the development teams where we've had a lot of success at junior level. We've now made progress at senior level, and we've said all along at every age group we want to be constantly challenging semi-finals, finals, because that's where, if you're in those moments of tournaments, then your chances of success are high. I suspect when the next rankings come out, we'll be back in the top 10, and that's probably about where we are. You know, I think we're a bit outside the top 4 or 5 yet. I think we're competitive against all of those teams. And then we're in a group of teams where, a bit like the game the other day, you know, I've watched the game back, and yeah, there's a period of the second half where they're on top, but in the first half we're well on top. In the first half of extra time we're on top. And we're 10 minutes away from a shootout, as I say. So sometimes you have to watch the game back. I'll need to watch it back a couple more times just to get all of the detail out of it. But we were a lot closer than even maybe I thought at the time. So I'm not scared of anything, not even the big bad wolf, really. No, I think we're here to try and improve every time we play and every time we go into a tournament. And in many respects, there were low expectations this time that relieved the pressure, but nevertheless, there was still pressure on the team to get out of the group, pressure to win their first knockout game, pressure to win the penalty shootout, and they coped brilliantly with all of that. So if we want to play for England, we have to deal with expectation. It's the same as if you're at a big club. And we've raised expectation. I don't see a problem with that, because we've also raised belief in the players, and we've raised their enjoyment of playing, and they can now associate playing with England with enjoyment, fun, and not being under siege and feeling as if everything is against them. There's an energy and a connection back, and I think that's important for the team, not only in the short term but in the mid to long term as well.
There, and then in the front row here.
Dan Salisbury-Jones from ITV. Gareth, you decided not to have a parade going home. In 1990, the players were greeted by 300,000 people. Clearly, you've caught the imagination of the people this time around. Why have you decided not to do that? And Fabian, would you and the rest of the players quite like that? Because all you've seen so far out here is the videos from back home. You've not actually experienced it yourself.
Well, I actually got the opportunity to go on for a few days, so I experienced what it was like back there. I then came back and told the lads how amazing it was, the support that we had. In terms of having coming back to 300,000 fans, that would be nice, but it's not going to happen. Hopefully, when we come back here in the next tournaments, we can come back one step further and it'll feel a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, reality is not actually my decision, but I agree with the decision. I think if we make the final, maybe it's different. I must say the support we've had from home and the feeling of support is immense, and you know, to have been able to make a difference is something that will live with us all forever. So we can tell the way that the country have united behind football, and that's maybe more important than the performance in some respects. But if we have a parade, that would have been one part of the country, and we represent the whole country as well. And you know, the feeling we have is we're proud, and we hope that, you know, come our matches in September, that that warm feeling about international football will be there again, and yeah, we're as I say, we're very proud, but we haven't won in the end, and there is I guess a balance of all of that.
Yeah.
Hi, Ian Murd at Daily Star. Question for Fabian. After this World Cup, it's said that people are looking at international football in relation to club football in a new light. Can I ask you, what's the balance for yourself, and how does this campaign compare in terms of enjoying it as much as the title-winning season at Manchester City?
I think I've mentioned a few times in a couple of interviews that I've done that the feeling that I have at Manchester City, the energy, the trust that we've got within our camp is quite identical to what I've felt since I've been in this camp. The energy is fantastic. There's a lot of young players, as there is at Manchester City, so everybody seems to be fearless, going in the same direction. And yeah, it's quite similar. It felt like I was going from leaving club football to then join up with club football again, if you like. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's always an honour to play for your country and to do it with a bunch of lads that are such good people. And to go as far as we've gone, we've not quite done it, but it's been a fantastic experience for me personally, and I think it'll stand us in good stead for the future.
Okay, there. And then the gentleman with the orange.
Hello, Geert Gijzen, Belgian newspaper, Nieuwsblad. Question to Gareth. In Belgium, we have the impression that you guys were quite okay with losing the first game against Belgium. But do we get another game tomorrow with two teams who really want to win, do you think?
Well, I can't speak for Belgium, but I would imagine they are as hungry as we are to finish the tournament well. They've had an exceptional tournament, you know, to beat Brazil. They've gone 2 years. They lost their first game. Roberto and Graham lost their first game against Spain, and they've lost to France in the semi-final. It's a brilliant journey they've been on. So they will want to finish well. We're very keen to do the same, and yeah, that's. I'm sure there's some excellent footballers on show, so it'll be a good test for us. Again, we're not being able to beat these top teams yet, so we've got to take every opportunity we can to do that.
Gareth, hi. How confident are you this sort of summer of love between the team and everyone back home can continue past the summer, you know, when it starts raining and we're out of a tournament now and back to kind of normal international football, as it were? And where does the responsibility lie in making sure it does? Is it just with you and the players, or do the public have to bear with you a little bit? Or how do you think it all goes from here?
Really good question, because of course we go back into a different cycle where club football dominates, and then you have the windows of international. But I think what the players have achieved is the desire of our public is that players play with pride first and foremost, and that they see a team that leave everything on the pitch, which without question they have. They've played with style. I think the public have enjoyed the way they've played. You know, we've scored 6 in a game which has never happened before in a World Cup. And they've got to know the players a little bit better, I think, and they're recognising that the perception of players maybe is different to the reality of this group in particular. So I feel like there will be an affinity there and something we can build on. I said the other day, I talked about Germany in 2010. It's probably reminds me more of them in 2006, where the youth of the team, the enthusiasm from their tournament at home really propelled the team back into the minds of their public, and I think that's where we are. Downside of that is it took them another 8 years to win. I'm not looking for 8 years, by the way, but I think we have to also recognise that at club level you can have near misses and you maybe get closer each season, and of course internationally you have to wait every 2 years, and this group, I said all along, definitely stronger in 2 years' time because of their age and because of their big match experiences. We've been through really brilliant experiences this time that, along with the painful experiences they went through last time, actually will build resilience in them as a group. And as learning opportunities, both are equally important. So we have to build, we have a responsibility to build on that, and we've set a benchmark for how we work every day. We have to keep focusing on that every time we're together. And I think there's a culture that exists now every time we come together that we expect players, any new player that comes in, to follow. And that's the start point for any team in terms of how you work, and then we can improve the detail of our tactical play and the important moments of big matches.
The gentleman with the yellow t-shirt.
Вопрос на русском языке.
My question will be in Russian.
Гаррет, как вы думаете, кто больше в этом году заслужил золотой мяч? Это был Лука Модрич или Килиан Мбаппе? Или, может быть, у вас есть свое мнение по этому поводу?
Or do you have your own opinion on that? Thank you very much.
No, I think there's been some exceptional individual performances, but we're very proud that Harry is currently top goal scorer. But outside of that, I'm not interested in the individual awards too much. It's every team is here to win as a team. That's what football is about, and we have a captain whose first thought all tournament has been, how far can the team go? How can he help the team to progress? He was totally on board with us not playing him in the first game against Belgium. If he had a different mindset, he'd have been insisting he played in that game, and he didn't. He wanted to do what was right for the team. So it'd be even more powerful for him if he wins the Golden Boot, having made that sacrifice, in my opinion.
Jerry Cox from Haters here, Gareth. You said in the game against Croatia you lost control in the second half and the second half of extra time. Do you think that was nerves or experience, the way the sort of game plan, the passing football that had served you so well, just seemed to go out the window? And if it was inexperience, do you think this group can learn from that? Can you address that situation?
I think the second half of normal time, we just could have been a bit braver in our support positions. We've played brave, fearless football throughout the tournament from the back, and at times we squeezed up, we went longer, we turned the ball over a bit more, and that then meant that we had to solve solutions with some of the weaknesses that our system has, because every system has strengths and weaknesses, and we weren't able to exploit the strengths because we weren't playing out from the back quite as much, and it allowed Croatia to have more possession. They didn't create a huge number of chances, but the flow of the game changed, and of course when they scored we had a 15-minute spell where their fans were up. They got the momentum that we had when we'd scored in the first half. I was really pleased with the way we regained that in extra time, and extra time was very even. They get the goal from a bizarre header, and then we were just a bit slow to react to where it landed. And then we had to chase, and we also lost Kieran Trippier with a sort of problem with sort of nerve in his leg. So we're down to 10, and of course there's a little bit of counter-attack then as well that we're exposed to. So the flow of the game, there's so much within it, but absolutely we'll learn from that. You know, quite a lot of our players have never won anything. We've had one now this year in Champions League final, captained his team in the Champions League final. We've got a couple who've played in Europa League final. But in terms of big match experience, we're way behind a side like Croatia at the moment. So the only way to get those lessons and to improve is to play in those matches as often as you can. And the whole group will be stronger for that experience. And we've become a more intelligent team over the last 6 months, and that will continue to be big focus of our attention.
Yeah.
Hello, John Cross from the Daily Mirror. Fabian, I wonder whether I could just ask you, you've arguably had the best season of your career. How important is it for a player like yourself to be playing, you know, as regularly as you have done this season in the Premier League, and I guess across the squad, that being the case for many others, because obviously the numbers of players playing regularly have dropped, and also the chance to give young players a chance to break through for the future of the team in the next 5 or 8 years?
Yeah, for me personally, it's been a fantastic season. I managed to play quite a lot of football and in a position that I've never played before, so it was a learning season, a very enjoyable one. In terms of my development, I feel like I've still got a lot of development to do, a lot of areas that I can work at. It's very important to be playing regular football, because if not, you lose your distances, your timing. You start to basically get older and fade away. So this season's been a great season for me personally, and to get into the World Cup squad's been a highlight of my career. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think when I get time to go home and sit down and talk to the family, there'll be a lot of memories that I'll keep close to my heart, and hopefully I can continue to keep playing in the Manchester City team and keep getting into the England squads.
Okay, here, sorry sir.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, from my experience, when I was coming through as a young lad, it was always nice to get that manager that would look for the youth, look for the younger players. The only way you're going to develop is by playing men's football. I think it's very important that the players do that, whether they're going out on loan or managing to get some games with the first team. Pep managed to push a lot of the young lads forward into our squad. They trained with us every day of the season, and I think 2 of them got Premier League medals this season, so long may that continue. And I mean, all across the Premier League, I think if we start to push the young lads forward, then it'll be nothing but good stuff for the future for the national teams.
Yeah, there, and then the lady in white in the end.
Amaru from Kyodo News Japan. Question to Coach Southgate. As the Premier League will start in less than a month, how worried are you with the condition of all the players going into the new season?
I think the players will be in great condition. The key will be that they get a psychological break, but physically they're you know, touch wood at the moment, they're all fit, and they're, you know, we've worked hard. I always felt there's a lot talked about our country, and without doubt a winter break would help our teams that are in the Champions League. it would help in terms of fewer injuries in the second half of the season in our league. But I also felt there was a bit of a myth about it affecting the fitness for a tournament, because we never spoke about it in 1996 or 1998, and we've worked hard this summer. You know, we gave all of the players a week off whenever they finished, because I think the psychological freshness was important, and we periodised the training very carefully, both in terms of the physical aspect and the football. And I think the players have been in good condition because of that, and we've minimised muscular injuries. We've almost every game had everybody available. So there's been millions of theories as to why we haven't succeeded as a national team. I didn't believe that was one of them. I didn't believe the hotel we stayed in was one of them, although the hotel we've had has been brilliant and the way we've been looked after has been brilliant. In the end, it's about the football. It's about the tactical football. It's about the quality of your players and the identity of the team and the togetherness of the team. And I think we've made big advances in those areas. The other bits are periphery, can be overblown in terms of their importance or used as excuses. And the bit we have to improve most is on the pitch. Continuing to learn tactically, continuing to improve, continuing to develop technically good players, and managing games the best way we possibly can. And we've done that very well in a number of situations this tournament. And that's the area we have to keep improving.
Yeah.
Sports, right at the back, sorry. Hi. The Spanish journalists have been drawing the contrast of your coaching to Pochettino, to Guardiola, the Argentinian, to Pochettino. But I know someone that's been watching you very closely, Terry Venables. Can you explain to the wider world the influence he had on you as a coach and your formations and the mentality in which you approach your players, and maybe a message back to him at home?
He was, I think as a player, you play for coaches who help you develop as a person, help you develop as a player. He challenged us tactically, which I think with international players, you're dealing with top players, so they want to keep learning. And he created an environment that was fun to be in. You know, one of his favourite sayings was, "This isn't a rehearsal." And that's how this felt. It wasn't a rehearsal for us. We, you know, who knows? Maybe we only get one crack at a World Cup. So we wanted to give it everything we had, but have an environment where players and staff created memories that would be with them forever. And we knew part of that would be to play well and to win matches. But the feel of the group was good, and Terry definitely had that right. But in terms of all the coaches you talk about, you learn from all of them. You know, you learn from watching their teams play. You learn from watching them. You learn from discussions with them. I think any coach wants to continually keep finding new ideas, new ways of working, improving themselves so that they can help their players to get better and help their teams to get better. And we're fortunate in our country to have some of the most successful managers in Europe, and so I think for everybody that's a great opportunity to watch the teams work and see how we might take some of those things into our own way. But you've got to be your own person as well, and you've got to do what you believe is right and manage to your beliefs and values, and in the end you have your own ideas on how things should work, and they will be slightly different to other people's. And you want to. When I was a young manager, I compromised some of those values, and I wasn't prepared to do that with this team. And I'm fortunate that I've had a group of players and staff who've bought into that wholeheartedly and have been an absolute pleasure to work with.
Final two questions, one here and one the gentleman in the second row.
Gareth, David Ornstein from the BBC. I was listening back to one of your interviews earlier in the tournament when everything was going right, and you said, well, actually a lot has gone wrong that we didn't know about. Can you elaborate on what you meant there? And also, do you now, the dust has settled on Croatia, have any regrets, and what do England need to do to break through against the biggest nations in the world?
Well, in terms of what we need to do, we just need to keep continually improving. The improvement over the last 8 months has been dramatic, but we've had probably 8 matches. Well, we had 6 matches playing with this system before we came into the tournament, and you know, the players have got a lot clearer. We felt the best way to be successful in this tournament was to play that system and to really get the detail of that system as clear as possible. And now we've cemented that. Now we can look at other things as we move forward and progress in other areas. We knew that set plays might give us a competitive advantage, which they did. So our challenge was, how do we make the most of the strengths that we have, and how do we hide the weaknesses, which every coach and team needs to do if they're going to be successful. And it's for others to decide, you know, whether that's been successful or not. But of course, we know where we are. We're not, you know, we will finish as one of the top 4 teams in the world. We're not ranked one of the top 4, but coming into this, midway through last season, we were ranked 14, 15, and we've improved from there, definitely. But there's plenty of room for improvement, which the players are up for, and all of the support team are up for.
Okay. Final.
Well, when you talk about regrets, you will always analyse every decision that you make. And then you've got to counteract that with you know, how many good ones and how many that you might do differently. And sometimes the ones that you do differently are a lot easier with the benefit of hindsight of how things worked out. But you make decisions based on the evidence that you have and working with the players every day and your experiences within the game. And sometimes those things, those decisions are right. I feel comfortable that we got a lot of decisions right as a group. And we can always analyse, absolutely, lots of things that can be done differently and be improved upon. But I would think every team in the tournament's probably sitting saying the same thing. So we debrief everything. We'll debrief that with the players. We'll debrief as a group of staff. And we'll look to improve, absolutely, every time we get together.
Your final question here.
Simon Peach from the Press Association. Gareth, just wanted to find out about Trippier. It was a bit of a surprise to see him out there today. And also, given togetherness has been such a key part of this group and all 20 outfield players have played, are you tempted to maybe change goalkeepers for this game?
Well, we've not finalised the team yet, so that second part of that question will become apparent tomorrow. But in terms of Kieran, we think it was a sort of nerve problem tied into cramp, and for certain there was a point at which he couldn't continue, and then of course we had to play the last few minutes without him, so that sort of nerve issue seemed to pass a couple of hours later. So, but at the time, you know, if he can't run, then I suppose we could have stuck him on the halfway line, but yeah, he would have been desperate to be on there if he possibly could. I think you've seen his commitment to the team and what it's meant to him and the quality of his play. It's been an incredible tournament for him. So it was a real blow for us, because just at a time where we knew then we would have momentum because Croatia were going to sit back, we lost the extra man, and although we kept pushing forward, it maybe denied us that sort of last 7-8 minutes of being able to really push forward, because we'd made our changes.
Thank you, Gareth and Fabian, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This ends the press conference. Thank you.
Thank you.